Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Tomorrow, Beehive Meals opens their new production facility in Ogden. Catch Scotty and the coach live on the air, covering the grand opening with full KSL Sports Zone energy. That's tomorrow, 10 to 2, right here on the Zone. DJ and PK, we are joined now by Krysten Peak, NBA.com, and Hoops HQ contributor. Krysten, good morning.
Good morning from Chicago.
Good morning from Chicago. We have questions. I have many questions. Who do you think is the number one pick in the draft? Who do you think the Wizards is the number one pick? Who do they think is the number one pick in the draft? If you were the Jazz, would you trade up? And what price would you pay? There are many questions there. Why don't you start by just taking an easy one? If you think any of those are simple and straightforward, feel free to jump in and answer one.
Well, listen, as soon as I saw the Jazz get number 2, I'm like, this is not going to be easy for them. It's a wonderful, wonderful problem to have, especially in this draft class, because I don't think that the Wizards are going to hold their cards close to their chest, right? Like they probably are going to entertain conversations with Utah, but what they're going to ask for, I don't think the Jazz are going to be willing to give up. And that's going to be Ace Bailey, plus the second pick, plus another asset and a future first. And that is just not going to happen. So, who do I think is going to go first right now? I think it's going to be AJ. And number 2, Darren Peterson. Cam Boozer is getting a lot of attention of the way he tested so well at the combine yesterday, just with his agility testing and, and shooting. He's obviously not participating in the scrimmages, but there's going to be a ton of smoke, a ton of information coming out in the next 6 weeks or so. But if the draft were tomorrow, I think that's the way it would shake up.
I saw the Bonster. They do a lot of different interviews, and I think this was with a podcast with Cowherd, and he asked them, do you have a preference? And he just answered very short and brief, whichever team drafts me. And that's literally that's all he said. And I'm wondering, obviously he's got the Utah connection, and that's very rare that anybody of the NBA caliber, let alone the first pick, has as a Utah connection. But I'm wondering if you think that maybe that might be a tie that his people can say to Washington, this is really where we'd rather be. So it might be in your best interest to go with Peterson or whomever.
I know Ace and AJ very well. Ace's father, who's, they elected not to have an agent. And so he's running things, and they also have a business manager. But I don't see AJ or Ace going to Washington. They're not going to do what your Ace did last year and say, we're not working out for anyone except this one team because this is where I want to be. Jaden Ivey did the same thing during the draft year. AJ is not going to do that. He is a competitor. He's a gamer. He's very much outside the box and outside the norm in the realm of, he was the number 1 player coming out. He went to Utah Prep. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Utah Prep in Mesquite.
I have.
It is in the middle of nowhere. And so he's an outlier. He decided to go to BYU and play for Kevin Young, put BYU on the map, make them, kind of like the Mountain Blue Blood of the West. And so he's an outlier. And I think he's going to be someone, he's like, I'm going to play and I'm going to get better wherever I am. So no, I do not see them holding Washington hostage and being like, no, we don't want to play for you. We really want to be in Utah. I don't see them doing that.
Krysten,
Go ahead, DJ.
You're not going to believe this, but do you know how close PK is to the middle of nowhere right now?
I'm about a mile away from Utah Prep.
The Epson Tour.
Sorry, PK. I'm sorry.
The Epson Tour, the road to the LPGA since 1999, is at Copper Rock, which is, how far is that from the middle of nowhere, PK?
It's probably about 3 or 4 miles
Yeah.
from where Utah Prep is.
So our station has a lot of sponsors down there in Red Rock Country watching golf and hanging out, and PK is down there to entertain the sponsors with stories about, well, my guess is the number one pick in the draft is a pretty big topic with the sponsors who are down at that Epson Tour stop right now. That's pretty funny.
I'm sorry. I don't mean middle of nowhere. You have to remember, I live in Utah too. I now live in Vegas.
It is. Yeah, PK.
It's a nice little town. I've seen photos of the golf course. I know Ace and AJ have played on that golf course.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things,
it is.
No, you're right.
Yeah, it is the middle of nowhere.
No, it's out of the way. And that's the thing that defines AJ is he did things that are unconventional. He did go to Utah Prep. He did go to BYU. BYU normally doesn't get those types of guys, obviously. And so I wondered if he thought that maybe that it would just be a desire, not necessarily a demand, but a desire, I guess.
sure, I'm sure he has a preference. He's never going to talk about it. He knows better. And that's fine. But if the Wizards take him number one, he's going to be fine there too. I mean, it's a big market, and he grew up in Brockton, outside of Boston. Like he's going to be fine. But yeah, for Jazz fans, I'm sure you would want me to say, "Oh yeah, he's totally going to tell Washington, I want to be in Salt Lake City and that be." But there is no guarantee that the Wizards don't take Cameron Boozer or Darren Peterson number one too. So maybe it shakes out. They go and they have workouts, and the front office is like, no, DP, you are our guy, or Cameron Boozer, you are our guy, and then miraculously AJ just falls to 2 and everything works out.
Krysten, you've been doing this a while. Anybody who's been doing this a while has heard a lot of crazy stories. And some of them have some truth, and some are wildly entertaining. And sometimes people, it's just CYA time, right? And they got to come up with a story to explain or justify whatever crazy behavior has gone on. So I'm curious, number one, what you think. And number two, more importantly, what you've heard NBA decision makers think about Darren Peterson, and he missed games at Kansas because of cramping, and it was because of creatine. And he has naturally high levels, and then when he used it, it was too much, and his body couldn't handle it. Are people buying that? Is there some science behind that? Are people rolling their eyes privately? What do you think, and how do you think this is going over?
I thought the timing was very telling. A couple days before the combine, when DP was going to have to go through testing, I thought, and using a platform and a writer like Ramona to get something out there and explain why he was cramping. Look, it doesn't matter if they are rolling their eyes or not. The teams in the top 3, they're going to have their own doctors look at everything in the medical and determine what was right, what was exaggerated, and figure out why he was cramping so much. The full body cramps is real. And what happened to DP was real. He dealt with full body cramps. He had a hamstring issue. He was sick for a couple games. I mean, it was just all bad. And I like what I know from him as a high school prospect. And actually, Jonathan Gavoni went on a podcast and he said, "Listen, I've seen DP versus AJ in 4 different environments, and I came out thinking DP was the better prospect." And if you look at that first half of that BYU Kansas game, DP scored 18 points in 20 minutes and didn't play the second half. And he was the best prospect between the two of them on the court. So if you want to look at that and buy into that, and then the 2 prolific prep versus Utah Prep games on the grind session in high school, and then you got the McDonald's All-American game. I mean, if you just want to go solely based off the head-to-head stuff between DP and AJ, DP was the better prospect. But over the course of the year and being a gamer and what AJ did in the Big 12 tournament, I mean, AJ solidified himself, I think, in my eyes, as the best prospect. But in terms of, the creatine levels, how high they were, I have never taken creatine, but I would assume that any sort of level that he's talking about where your body shuts down, I think it would be more than full body cramps. And I don't know. It's not up to me and the medical staff to decipher what's true and what's smoke.
So Peterson comes out and says, I'm a point guard. Now, point guard today is different than yesteryear. We understand that the roles have changed. Shooting has become much more prominent. I'm wondering, what was the motivation in saying that? Because Washington has Trae Young. They just got him. And do they want to keep him? I don't know if there's anything involved in that. I'm wondering what you think.
I think it was just like a off the cuff comment because he played so much lead guard when he was healthy at Kansas. And so everyone is saying, oh, he's a shooting guard, and he's more of a combo guard, but coming out and saying, oh, I think of myself as a point guard. I mean, I don't think there's any sort of like secret outlying message with that, kind of like digging or secretly telling Washington, I don't want to come play for you guys because you guys have Trae Young and I'd rather go to, Utah or Memphis. But I think it's just one of those things where it was like off the cusp of, hey, look, don't just look at him as a shooting option. He actually played a lot of point at Kansas.
Do you think the Wizards will worry about positional fit? How much will that factor into their decision? There have been some of those decisions been made in the past, and they didn't work out well for teams that made them. It's most teams want to draft the best player available. What do you think the Wizards are thinking?
I think they are not worried about positional fit at all. If you look at what the San Antonio Spurs did, drafting Dylan Harper, and what OKC has done masterfully and just getting their star and Shea, and then getting a bunch of long wings and shooters and two-way players and, your one center with Chet. I don't think there's one position for every player, especially in this draft. You go based off, if the medical clears, workout, how they feel with when they bring the player in, because there's going to be a lot of sense of, okay, no, this fits, this feels good, instead of, okay, we already have a point guard and Darren Peterson said he's a point guard. So we're going to pass on him. Nobody's doing that in this draft. They're really diving into, the analytics of it, the upside, and, how they project as pros at 24 and 25, being just 19 years old.
I'm wondering if you think this draft has more poker involved. And what I mean by that is teams trying to maneuver, try to get messages out there, that type of thing, because of the fact there isn't a bona fide lock as number one. You can go back, Zion, Anthony Williams, even Cade Cunningham, obviously Wembanyama and Cooper Flag. We know those guys were going to go number one. And so maybe that might have limited it. Do you find that this draft has an opportunity of teams trying to get stuff out there to make other teams think they want to do this or that?
Absolutely. Not only teams, but agents too, because agents want their players in a certain market as well. And so you're going to see it is officially smoke season. Like we're already seeing it happen. And so I always try to decipher. Listen, I've been burned by a few people in front offices. And so I know now when they tell me something, I take it with a grain of salt, because I remember when you told me this 3 years ago, and then you guys ended up taking the player, like you were telling me that. So I would put it out to other teams because I talk to everyone, everybody talks to everyone, and they're just trying to get their agenda set. And so absolutely this year, especially this year, because this is the last tanking year and next year kind of flattens out. I don't think next year's draft is as bad as people are portraying it to be. I do think there is quite a bit of talent at the top, not like this year, but so absolutely we're going to see a lot of smoke. And I'm not going to be afraid to call people on their BS on Twitter like I have recently.
Nice.
There are legendary NBA drafts, 1970, 1984, 2003, multiple Hall of Famers, champions, all that, MVPs, all that kind of stuff. This draft gets talked about like that. But even those drafts had busts mixed in. When you look at the top four who seem to have been set aside from the rest of the draft, or maybe you want to go out to the top eight, again, there seems to be kind of a group there at 8 or 9, wherever you want to draw the line. Is there a bust in there in your eyes, or legitimately are people just going to be picking one all-star after another all-star, and you may not get it right, but you can't really get it wrong either?
I don't think there's 8 all-stars in this class. No, not even close. But do I think that there's 8 legitimate rotational, like long-term NBA players in this top 10 in this lottery? Yes. And I mean, I'm never going to call a kid a bust. I'm not here for hot takes. So you asked the wrong person. But the person, I think the player that might need the most time to adjust just because of the physicality and the pace of the game is Keaton Wagler. But you're drafting him based off what he's going to project 2 years from now. After you get him into the system, after you get him, get him to put a little weight on, what he does and his IQ and how he reads the game is why he's going to be drafted 5 to 7.
Yeah, I got a Wooden Award vote, so I made sure that I paid attention to him as he developed, coming, not totally out of nowhere, but didn't have the hype coming in. And I thought that, and I still think, obviously, he's an intriguing prospect to see what he can be in once we get to the turn of the decade. And I think that his upside is really incredible. Same thing can be said about Wilson. Do you think that there's an opportunity that maybe somebody likes him and he even moves up more than where he's projected?
Yeah, look, we all saw the pre-draft video with that Clutch put out of his 3-point shooting because that was the biggest knock on his game. He didn't particularly shoot the 3 ball well in the combine. It was fine, but it wasn't as like masterful as we saw in that workout. And that's fine. That's, the agent put out no misses on purpose. But with Caleb, he is just so raw. And the one thing with him, I was watching the draft show and they interviewed AJ, they interviewed DP, they interviewed Cam. They never interviewed Caleb. He is going to feel a certain way about that. Caleb keeps receipts. He kept receipts the entire season before he broke his wrist. He made a point to say, I was on the same team with Darren Peterson at McDonald's and he never passed me the ball. So this is why I want to show people why I'm a better prospect than him. And he did. Like they totally took it to Kansas. And then when he was playing Notre Dame through the handshake line, he said to the head coach, "Hey, thanks for cutting me from the U18 USA basketball team. It motivated me to be the player I am now." So Caleb is going to feel a certain way about not getting interviewed and just people thinking you are the 4th best player in this draft. And you know what? That is the best thing that NBA fans can hope for because he's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. And that is the best version of Caleb.
Nice.
Danny Ainge famously traded down in Boston and got Tatum, the guy he wanted, let other people trade up, and he got more assets and got the player he wanted. What are the odds the Jazz do that? Is there any chance that they can't get AJ because AJ goes 1 and DP for whatever reason isn't their guy? What are the odds they trade down because they like the players at 3 and 4? Maybe they like Caleb and the chip he's got on his shoulder. That would seem to appeal to Danny Ainge and Austin.
They're not going to trade down. They will just take him.
Yeah.
In this draft, like that was a different draft. That was the Josh Jackson draft, if I'm not mistaken. Like that, everyone has blinders. Nobody has blinders on Danny Ainge and Austin anymore. They know what they're doing, and they know that they have their guy. And they're gonna, nobody's trading down in this draft. I'm sorry, but from 2 to 4, that's not happening. They're just gonna take their guy.
Longtime Jazz fans still have that scar from Derek Harper years ago. You go live in Utah and made it sound like it was just a hellhole. And I know management has worked tirelessly to change that perception away from the draft, going big picture in the NBA. How much do you think that perception has changed in that young people, particularly young African-American men and the people who are advising them would be just fine playing for the Utah Jazz?
Just in the sense where what Ryan Smith has been doing and with the Jazz culture, now you guys have a hockey team, you made the playoffs. In Salt Lake City, I lived in Murray for 4 years. I mean, it is a growing city, and Ryan Smith and Danny, they're building a culture. And Keontae's out here, by the way, and I just saw him at dinner, and he's here all week. But he loves living in Utah. I mean, the misconception of African American players don't want to play in Utah because there's no diversity there. I think we've come away from that. And that's because of what Ryan and Danny they've done a great job. Now it's turned to nobody wants to go to Memphis because LeBron James came out and said Memphis is the worst city in the league. So, or Toronto because of the taxes, or Sacramento because that's where players go to die. Like there's not that stigma for the Jazz at all.
Cool.
We have a guy on the show who says Oklahoma City is the worst stop in the league, but Oklahoma City's got 1 trophy and they're 8-0 halfway to another trophy, so that doesn't seem to be bothering them at all. That might just be one
Oh no,
person's
not
opinion, too.
yeah. Winning solves everything.
Right?
So if you are on that OKC team, you're thinking OKC is the greatest city in the world.
There you go. Well, Krysten, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for joining us and dropping all that draft knowledge. This is what Jazz fans are thinking about driving around town. This is what they're pondering in their downtime. This is what they're talking about the first 10 and last 10 minutes of every meeting. So thanks for jumping into the conversation.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good one.
There's Krysten Peak. You can follow Krysten, former Murray resident, at NBA.com and Hoops HQ contributor. DJ and PK, we got to take a break. When we come back, everything you missed in this show next. Stay with us.
Welcome to
This is Chase Scott and Ben Anderson.
I definitely think the league is just built around two-way players. You got to play both sides. You really have to have an impact. Your entire game plan can't just be disguising multiple bad defenders, and it's what the Jazz ran into with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. It was just Rudy had to cover up so much, it just became too much for him, and the dam broke.
James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, I don't think, can play together. And I love this direction of where the NBA is going, by the way. How many one-way offensive players can you play at one time? At one point, it was how many non-shooters can you play at one time? And now combine that with how many one-way guys can you play at one time? One?
Yeah.
Maybe two? I think that will be where the Lakers run into trouble even when their players are back or if Austin Reeves stays. I don't think you can have more than one non-defensive player. You know what? It might be the Nuggets' problem.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Your vehicle doesn't just get you from here to there. It's a bridge to the people and places that matter most. It's how you show up for your family, your community, and everyone else that depends on you. That's why for 125 years, Firestone has been building tires with one thing in mind: to deliver products that are as reliable as you are. Firestone, always dependable since 1900.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
What if you could replace your windows and doors today and not pay a dime for 2 years? This May, Renewal by Andersen makes it happen. For a limited time, get beautiful new windows and doors with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest until May of 2028 with a minimum purchase of 6. That's right, install now and pay later. Way later. But this offer won't last. It ends May 31st. Visit renewalbyandersonhome.com today and take advantage of this limited time offer.
Having the right people in your corner for life's biggest milestones makes all the difference. Like a friend who's there when you're house hunting or checking out a new ride, State Farm is there too, helping you choose the coverage you need. With a State Farm agent, you know someone is there to help you along the way. And with so many coverage options, it's nice knowing you have help choosing a plan that fits your needs, so you can continue celebrating all of life's milestones. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
DJ and PK were brought to you in part by Trajan Wealth. They're bringing you the Slacker Radio headlines. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 1-855-TRAJAN1 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. We got multiple stories today. The Dodgers can't hit. They can't win. Sure, Shohei finally hit a homer, but the pitching load on him is dragging him down, and the Dodgers are struggling. They are getting Mookie back. So there's that, PK, and the ACC coaches and ADs joined the Big Ten and the Big 12 in favor of a 24-team playoff, and the NFL schedule keeps trickling out. Now we have all the foreign games, including 3 games in a row in London. And the Spurs blitz the Wolves, and all of that pales in comparison to A.J. DeBonsa. What would the Jazz do to trade? What would you do if you were running the Jazz? Well, how much would you give up to trade for him?
I'd give up Locke. That'd be one.
Funny. David Locke to DC.
I would not give up Ron Boone, though. I saw Ron Boone yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
And this is a man who is either close to or already has turned 80.
Uh-huh.
If I look half as good as he does at that age, if I'm alive, I would be happy. The guy hasn't aged in 15, 20 years.
I know. And not just looking good, but physically, walking around, still plays golf, right? There's no guarantee when you get to 80, you get to move around like Ron does. Mentally, sharp, still there. Go have a conversation with the guy. It's like you said, it's like talking to a 60-year-old. It's fine. You start talking to him about the team and the games and the stuff. And it's there's a trick to making it to 80, but then to get to 80 and have the quality of life he's having, that is incredible.
Yes, and it was at the golf course, and I was finishing my 9 holes that I play in my men's league that we do, and he was with a friend, and he was with a pull cart, and he was going to walk the 9 holes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Get those steps in. I like it.
Right.
Use it
so
or lose
we'll
it.
keep Ron, but if they want Locke, we'll have to let him go.
We'll get to some of your comments coming up. There's a ton of them. We are overwhelmed by them. This is the story. But largely the takeaway here is don't overpay to move. Now, people will draw the line on what they'll pay. There are people who will give up a future draft pick. There are people who will give up the Cleveland pick in 28, the Phoenix pick in 31. But largely, they're like, well, if they want a role player and a pick swap and a pick, okay. But, boy, when it gets to the 4 guys you were talking about yesterday, people don't want to move them. They do not want to move Jackson. Largely, they don't want to move Markkanen or Keontae or Ace. There's a few outliers. But, man, basically it's like, listen, the Wizards are going to go fishing, but you gotta show a little resolve here and just not give them everything just because you want AJ. And people do want
the
AJ.
Funny thing, and I love AJ as much as the next guy. I had an opportunity to interview him several times and watch him in person several times, and I think he's all that and fun player. It's sort of I don't know if ironic is the word. If I'm trading Keontae, then I want Darren Peterson.
Well, on a need basis, I get why you would say that. Say that. The ability to score it and score it easy. AJ's got a lot of things going for him. A lot of things. But is he going to score it as easily as those two do? It's a pretty big ask in the NBA.
I think he can. I think particularly the mid-range there is virtually unstoppable.
Yep.
Now, it was at the collegiate level and the other levels that he's played at. We'll have to see. Everything changes to a large degree once you get to the highest level, which is the NBA, obviously. So we'll have to see that. Until you've done it in the NBA, there is a little bit. Some have more question marks than others, but I still think there is a question mark no matter who you are, with very few exceptions. And I don't see anybody in this class that passes that exception. I'm going to have smaller doubts for some of them, certainly, but I think he can. But Peterson, so smooth and so good that if you would have told me in October, hey, the Jazz can get Darren Peterson, I would have been over the moon. Yeah, this is great for these guys, man. I want to talk about a winning team. We all do. Fans want to follow a winning team. And I want playoff runs. I talked to Austin Ainge about that. I said, come on, man. You're stretching me thin here, guy. You got to get to the playoffs. And he laughed and said, yeah, I'll do what I can for you. And so away you go. My only concern with Darren Peterson is his middle name is Nathan.
DNP. Terrible initials for a basketball player.
I do not know if his middle name is Nathan. I just made that up.
Well, it was fun, wasn't it?
Yes. Other than that, and I think that issue can be resolved very quick, because now he's playing for much higher money, much higher stakes, and also for the second contract and the third contract, and you have to produce. The reality is he didn't have to produce that much at Kansas to go 1 or 2. That's a fact.
I'd like to argue, but it is a fact.
Yeah. But everything changes. The situation and the parameters totally change now. And, it was college basketball has its place, but its place is much smaller than the NBA. There are going to be all sorts of lights and people and eyes on him next season. So I'm not as concerned, particularly if Jazz management isn't as concerned about it. Well, they're going to alleviate my concern.
Hey, we better give a shout out to Jeff J. at BYU, because 3 months ago he had up Twitter and said, wouldn't it be great if Darren Peterson's middle name started with N? He
did?
Yeah, he did. Even threw out, what if it was Nathan or something? That went up on Cougar Board in February. Yeah, you're not the first person to go DNP.
Okay.
Everyone's playing around with that.
But I don't know that many of my comments are 100% original. So if you want
that's a basketball joke that would appeal to a lot of people. So it's not surprising if multiple, I don't even know if Jeff J or whoever it was the first person to throw it out there. Maybe there was somebody else. But I just did a quick search for his middle name to see what it was, and no information. So, it's that old thing, though, where there's no information or no story, people will create one. So there you go.
But I think it can be alleviated. Can it be solved? Well, we'll have to see this time next year when we look at the Basketball Reference and it has his rookie season and look under GP and see how many games were played. And that's not Gary Payton. It's games played. That's literally the only way to alleviate it. Everything else is sort of talk.
There's another story that is just kind of breaking this morning. The ACC is having media availability, I think. And Brett McMurphy, who we've had on the show, he's one of a handful of the preeminent college football national writers. Sure. Yeah. He throws this out there on Twitter. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said ESPN does not want the playoff to expand past 16 teams, period. Quote, ESPN's made it clear they want to stay at 12 or 14, but no more than 16, close quote, Phillips said. Brett McMurphy put that on Twitter, and if you think that's getting a lot of reaction, you are correct. It is. It has just barely gone up. It's a pretty fresh quote there. So that's 30. It's only been up 31 minutes. And this goes back to what we had when we had Tim Brando on, who said ESPN wants to keep Fox out. And there are comments on this, and John Wilner, a.k.a. The Hammer, has weighed in with this is ESPN versus Fox. The schools are just kind of basically window dressing here. They're pawns in this game. This is ESPN and Fox. Fox wants to televise playoff games. If there's 24 teams, they have to have 23 playoff games, and that is just too many games for any one network. ESPN's already sublicensed 2 games to TNT. They would have to do more. Some of these games would probably have to go head-to-head or overlap, with a game kicking off at halftime of a game on another channel. So, hey, it's big business. There's a gazillion dollars at stake. This isn't surprising. Live sports is the last appointment viewing. Of all the things that have just hammered the TV industry, it's at us as viewers, including people who work in the TV industry. We want to view on our schedule. We don't want to have appointment viewing. We don't want to have to say, hey, I got to be here at 7 or 9. And the last thing we will do it for is not prime time. It's not a newscast. It's live sports. That's the last thing we'll set our schedule around is, hey, the game kicks off at 1, the game kicks off at 6, whatever it is. So that's the wrestling match here. Now, there are people saying, hey, the SEC is going to have teams 13, 14, 15, and they don't have to play a game and be exposed that those teams really aren't 13, 14, 15 anymore. Is that part of it? Maybe it is, actually, and I think there's some that's worth discussing, and there's some truth in that, but money talks. And the amount of money that we're talking about here in a 2014 playoff, it stamps its feet, it screams, and it pounds the table. So this other stuff is interesting, and there's a good reason to discuss it. But, man, there is a lot of money at stake right here. And the conference playoff games will get caught up in these conference title games will get caught up and wiped out by the round of 24. I think that's pretty clear that has to be the trade-off.
Sure. And there's a lot of things to say, and that's why we need, not just want, whether you don't like it or like it, that's why we need NIL, because all this money that is at stake, it's because these young kids out on the field. and they deserve a fair share. And maybe they're getting more than a fair share, but good for them. Did you hear what Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame, went to the Cardinals, said?
I did not.
He's going to get $53
Oh, I did.
million.
Yes, I did. Yes, this was actually bravo.
Yeah, he said, I'm not going to touch that money. I'm of the NIL era. I'm well off already.
Yep.
And hey, why not? Why shouldn't he or she be able to cash in? It seems archaic that Jimmer Fredette wasn't able to cash in.
Totally agree.
When Dave Rose is getting multiple offers.
Yep.
Because of Jimmer Fredette to go to other places. And that's nothing against Dave. He deserved it. But so did Jimmer Fredette. And that's a classic high-level example. And so with that in mind, that it needs to be spread around because there is so much money at stake. And you got all these high rollers that are in their 60s deciding what is going to be the impact on 18 to 22 or 23-year-olds. Seems a little silly that they would walk away, not totally empty-handed, but everything had to be under the table and all that stuff. Now we're beyond that, and it's above the table. I've literally seen players get checks from business people right standing in front of me as the three of us are talking. And I've got no problem with that. Sure, maybe some regulations and so forth could help. I understand that. Also, I would much rather that decisions be made for what is in the best interest of the sport and the fans rather than what's in the best interest of some TV network.
Yes, and I think that the ACC, I don't believe the ACC commissioner just learned this. Jim Phillips has known this for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got to be careful in what he says because the ACC has a massive business relationship with ESPN. ESPN owns the ACC network. ESPN televises ACC games, and ESPN writes ACC schools big checks. Not as big as SEC schools, but still big checks to play in those games. There is no way that he just casually decided to go out and bite the hand that feeds him. There's no way. I don't believe it for a second. It doesn't pass the sniff test. He thought about it. He wants this to happen, and he's figured the only way we're getting to 24, which is best for his league, the only way we're doing it, ESPN's not going to give in unless I call them out and the world comes crashing down on them. And saying just what you said, PK, got to do what's best for the sport. Can't do what's best for one business. Can't do it. And he knows the amount of angst / jealousy / disgust that people have with ESPN. Partly because they're so big, partly because they don't like some of the shows, or the politics of the shows, partly because they're changing game kickoff times for games everywhere. All these things add up over time. They all do. And Jim Phillips, I think he knows exactly why he said what he said, and it was a conscious decision to say it now, not 2 months ago when he probably knew it 2 months ago. He probably knew it 6 months ago. But he finally decided now's the time. That's dropping a pretty big quote into the discussion right there. He lit the match, and he knows the fire is going to burn. And there's a price to pay for saying it. There's a price to pay for saying it, and he knew what the price was. I totally believe that.
Well, I think it's a trade-off. If I don't say it, is there a bigger price to pay? And if I say it,
yes. Yes.
So with that in mind, you talk to the hand that bites, so don't hand the hand that bites to feed you, don't bite it, or whatever that thing is. I have some expressions. And one of them is, you don't bleep where you eat. Yep. And more importantly, you don't bleep where I eat.
Right. And the Big 12 Commissioner, Brett Yormark, is just sitting there. Go get him, Jim. And then he looks at ESPN. I didn't say it. But I'm sure glad Jim did. Go get him, Jim.
All understood.
I'm right behind you.
There needs to be some form of solidarity that's in the best interest. And the SEC has talked about that. We're concerned about the college football as a sport as a whole. Oh, okay. Well, you have an opportunity to show me. Don't tell me, show me is the old phrase.
All right, DJ PK, we got to take a break. When we come back, your feedback next. Stay with us.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today: Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on 2024 filings with state departments of insurance.
Join Scotty G and the coach, Tim Lacombe, Friday from 10 to noon at Tim Dolly Mazda at 10785 South Automall Drive in Sandy. PGA Championship coming up. Bob Casper, Brian Taylor on every show, all day, all week long, with the PGA Championship getting underway here tomorrow. Yacht, do you want to give away a qualifier right now? Yeah, let's do it. Copper Rock PGA Championship, caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. We'll be assigned a golfer in the PGA Championship this week. We're assigning listeners one of the top 25 players in the world. One listener will be assigned the field. The winner will receive a Copper Rock logo golf bag and a $100 gas gift card. It's brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play. Time for your feedback. What would you trade to get A.J. DeBonsa? David, a future first. So he'll give up a draft pick, PK. And you know what? That's not what Justin would do. Justin doesn't want to give it up. He says maybe a Cleveland pick swap. That's it. So he won't give it up, but he'll swap and let him move up. And here's
there'll be two swaps then.
Yeah, right?
You're going to swap this year's.
Jay Money, how about this? No one. Perfect scenario for the Jazz. People need to remove the emotional connection between AJ and BYU. Jason, no one. Jazz need to stay at number 2 and take over drops them out of AJ or Peterson. Very simple in my opinion. Nothing. Boozer and Peterson impact winning more. So GVUDM is sitting there just hoping, I hope they take AJ because these other guys are going to have a bigger impact on winning.
Yeah, how do you know you're going because that BYU lost in the first round? Is that what he's saying?
I
is
don't.
Against BYU.
That's
meanwhile.
I did wonder.
The top 5 players last year didn't even make the NCAA tournament. They are out of Rutgers.
I did wonder if he was a Ute or an Aggie, and I clicked on his profile, and it was not immediately obvious. He is a Denver Bronco fan. Oh, I think he is a Ute fan.
Ute fan.
No, he's a Ute fan.
Way.
I just came down. I found some Ute stuff later.
Of course he was. I mean, come on. Fan. I don't need evidence to know what's right in front of my face, what I can see and what I can hear, what I can taste, what I can smell. Did I cover it all?
Allen, nothing. DP's the better prospect and fit. If the Wizards get wise to this, they'll pick DP. And then AJ falls to us, so don't trade for him. And that would also be great, by the way. That's Allen right there. So he's on board with both guys.
Well, I think they'll know that, particularly because they've got a relationship with Ace DeBonsa. And so Ace can just tell them Washington's going to take us. They have an insight to what's going on in a manner that no team has ever had. That might be too strong, but you get the point.
No, but I do think to your point, can you just see all the Jazz brass sitting around in a room, right? And you've got Ryan there who owns the club. You've got both the Ainges, Austin and Danny. You got Jay-Z, and they're all sitting there. All right, who do we know that talks to Washington Wizards management?
Yeah, duh.
Check. Box checked. Someone call Ace and find out what they're saying.
And then they've got Kevin Young, who's back there in Chicago right now. And so he obviously has an intense relationship with both the DeBonsas, father and son.
Yeah.
We just had Krysten Peak tell us that Ace is going to act essentially along with an advisor as the management team. He's heading it up, which he's been doing for years. So they'll know who is on Washington's list, because if they tell them, they're going to have to tell them at some point. I don't think they're going to wait. And AJ's sitting there in New York. Gosh, I wonder who it's going to be. They'll know. And so that information gets back to the Jazz and they can adjust accordingly. And if it is Darren Peterson, well, then they don't make a trade. If that's who if they want Ace or AJ as opposed to Darren.
Stop talking about this, JJ Johnny Utah says. Utah radio needs to relax. Trading for the first pick would be stupid. DP is just as good as AJ, if not better. Utah radio needs to relax. PK, when I was in college radio, there was somebody who made a technical mistake putting something on the air. And then they justified it with some people like quiet. And I just looked at him like, yeah, those people don't turn the radio on. Utah radio isn't here to relax. This is exciting. We're going to talk about it. We're not even sure what the right decision is. We're trying to weigh it. We know we have incomplete information. But people are dying to talk about this. Earlier in the show, I was talking about us walking down the street and some guy walking out in his driveway waiting for his wife to come along before they went on a walk. And he turns and he looks at me, does a real quick double take, goes, who would you draft? Didn't say, hey, DJ, didn't say anything. He got right to the important issue. Who would you draft?
So when you were walking down the street, were you singing doo-wah, diddy-dum, diddy-dum?
I could have been, but at that moment I was not. If I had thought of it, I probably would. Doo-wah, diddy-dum, diddy-dum. Yeah.
Well, you were walking down the street. You had half the equation.
I was, but I was too blown away by all the dogs I was passing. The number of people out walking dogs last night, and it was great, right? It was did it get to 90 yesterday? It was pretty warm. It was a really warm day. So as the sun's dropping, it's still 75, 80 degrees. It's like 8:30. The sun's going down. You get great sunsets here, and everybody was just like, "Get Rover, get the leash, let's go." I have to say, all the dogs are on a leash, too. Every once in a while, you get the renegade running around and going nuts. But no.
Our job is to talk about what people want to hear about.
Yeah. This is what's on the tip of everybody's tongue right now.
And we got two locals. We got the Jazz, who I believe always are and always will be the number one story. There'll be exceptions for a time, but we're talking big picture. Mm-hmm. And we've got AJ DeBonsa, who's at least marginally, if not more than that, a local factor. And so, come on, it's overwhelming. If I would have done, and actually I did a ton of sports radio. I just didn't have my own show when the Utes were doing their great things in basketball. I mean, I'd come back to the hotel after whatever, there'd be 5 messages from around the country. And I made sure I said yes to every freaking single one because this is what I really wanted to do.
I feel bad now. And we got listeners, who are 25, 30, 35 years old. Let's see, at 35, what would you be? It would have been like 7, right? Now, the listeners are 50, 60, remember it. But, PK, those months in 1998, I mean, the Jazz have been to the NBA Finals in 97. But you get to the first of the year and football ends, and the Utes are looking really good. And the Jazz are looking really good. Stockton had some surgery early that year. And it builds up to the NCAA title game, but a loss, and then the NBA Finals, but a loss. But the emotion, and people were so fired up for that. This draft, and I think people who are, 50-ish right now are thinking this could trigger something like that. I don't think this will ever land the way that landed. There was Jordan then. It was the first time then. The town was smaller, and with media, it was more connected. It's just different now. I don't know that they could get as strong a hold. Maybe they could. Maybe when we get there, we'll say, wow, this is just like... It was so much fun to cover those stories. And it didn't end the way people wanted because both the Jazz and Utes lost, and maybe some BYU fans were happy about the Utes losing, but I don't even remember it that way. I remember talking to BYU fans who were like, oh, if somebody from the state pulls it off. It was awesome. Those were good times, and maybe this is about to trigger that.
Yep.
All right, we're all done. The coach is coming up. Tim Lacombe, Scotty G on the way. Stay with us.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.